All right, in this lesson, we are going to organize our files. Yeah, I know it's going to be a little bit stressful, but we just have to do this. This step is very important. So let's go into the isometric house 0.0001.MB. And in case you don't know, the MB stands for Maya binary. So if you're just new, keep that in mind. Okay, now we need to start organizing our files. And if you look at our outliner, it is very messy, really crazy. Okay, but first we have the books. Yeah, that is book 1, book 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, now sometimes if what you have in your scene it's going to be one color, what you have to do is just to select everything and combine them together. But since we are going to be giving these books different colors, we are not going to combine them. So we're just going to select the first one, hold on shift and select the last one. So we have all the books selected. So we're going to hit on Ctrl G to group it, and we can just double click to rename it, and we're going to name this to books. Hit on enter. Okay, now we have all the books in one group. Now let's look for the drinks, which I don't know if it's drink or what. So let's quickly, okay, this is drink 1. And if we open this group, okay, so we have all the drinks here. So we have drink 1, drink 2, 3. Okay, so if we click on this drop down menu, we're going to have this. All right, I think let me quickly pull up the rev from here so we can really see some things here and how to organize them. So if we look at the cover and the drink itself, they are both having the same color, but I don't think we're going to make them the same color, so we can just leave it this way as the drink 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to move my reference into my other monitor here. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So the TV, we have this. We're just going to double click and name this to TV. Hit on enter. For the speaker, so we have this one, and I guess it's going to be the second one. So we're going to double click on this and name that to speaker 1, and double click on this and name that to speaker 2. Hit on enter. Select both of them. Hit on Ctrl G to group them and name that to speakers. Hit on enter. Okay, now let's look for this, and we're going to name this to round underscore table. Hit on enter. Okay, now let's keep that first. So we look for this, and we're just going to name this to chair. I hit on enter. Okay, so what else we have? What is this? What are these? Okay, these are the shelves and the brace. So I'm just going to, so let's see. That is the main wall. So let's select this. That is the window brace, and this is the curtain 1 and 10. So we can just double click on this and name that to curtain 1, and double click on this and name this to curtain 2. Now one thing you need to keep in mind while renaming in your outliner, when you give it space, Maya is going to automatically add underscore there instead of the space. So if you want to put the underscore yourself, you can go ahead and do it, but if you want to just use the space, just go ahead and do it. Maya is going to fix that for you. So we're going to select both of them. Now if you hold down shift and select here, it is going to select everything in there, everything in between. So okay, yeah, well, let's name this to I think curtain underscore brace, hit on enter. So select this one, hold on shift and select this one to select everything. We're going to hit on Control G and double click and name this to curtain and hit on enter. We don't need the one there. Did I add one? Let's double click and take out the one. Okay, why do we have one there? That I can't tell, so we're just gonna leave it that way. Okay, for this we have that as the shelf. So yeah, that is for, let's see that other cube, what it is selected. Okay, that one under. All right, this one, no, we're not going to select that one. This one, no. So where is this one? Is this locked? So let's see this cube 10. Okay, let's be sure we don't have anything else in our scene selected. Cube 11. All right, so I think these are all the shelves. Yeah, all of them. So we don't Control G, double click and name that to shelf, hit on enter, and we'll have the table. So this the cube 1 and this the cube. So we're going to name this to wall, and this is draw window, and we're just going to name this to window underscore brace, hit on enter, and this okay, yeah. So let's see this one, that is the vase, and this one. So let's double click on this and name this to vase, and we need to get the, and let's name this to flower underscore round, hit on enter. So we need, that is the vase. Okay, that is okay. So we can just select this one and this one, hit on Control G and name that to flower underscore 2 and hit on enter. So we have the TV, the table, the chair, and this. Okay, so for this we can't click this, so because we reference that. So now let's really see, let's find out. This is a drawer, this is drawer main. Okay, so we have the drawer window. So this we couldn't add it, so now we can just open this. So this is the handle. Of course, now we're going to middle mouse click, drag this and drop it inside of that group. So now we have all the drawer. So we have the TV, which is this, we have the table, we have the chair. All right, so what we are going to do now is to, this is shelf. We're going to select the shelf, and then we're going to draw our main. We're going to select that. Round table, we're going to select it. Draw a window, we're going to select that. Chair, we're going to select it as well. So I think that is all. So we're going to hit on Control G, double click here and name that to furnitures or furniture. Just hit on that to furniture 1. Maybe we've renamed that before, but I don't know. Okay, so now you can just, this is the flower, and we're going to select the TV, the speaker, and that is it. So we're going to hit on Control G, and we're going to name that to electronics. I see S or electronics. Yeah, electronics. All right. Yeah. So we have the window and the wall. This is the window brace. This is the curtain. So what we are going to do, we're just going to select the window brace and the curtain. Hit on Control G, double click on it, and we're going to name that to window. Windows, no, just window. All right. So I think everything is okay. So let's select this and select this one here. Hit on Control G to group them, and we're going to name that to drinks. Hit on enter or drink, whichever one you want to do that. So we're going to select this flower underscore 2 and flower. Control G, double click, and we name that to flower, flowers, flower. Hit on enter. So we have the book, we have the books, we have the furniture, we have the electronics, we have the window, we have the drinks, and we have the flowers. Just really double click on this and add S drinks. Okay, so we're going to double click on this and just name that to furnitures, and then yeah, no one anymore. All right. So wall one, I don't know why it named that way. So the only thing we have outside of everything is just the wall. Yeah, we missed something, which is this rug here. So we missed that. So we need to quickly do that now. So we can just shift right click, add a plane, click it on W, drag this up, and then we can just scale this like this. Maybe so. Let's see where it is stopping. It is getting to this part here, so we can scale this along the z-axis. Let's push this up, and now scale this along the x-axis. So we shouldn't do that much. Okay, of course it's going. Okay, it goes under the chair. So going to W, going to bring this down. Hit on R, scale this. Let me bring this here. W, we push this here. R, and we scale this again, just like this. And okay, it goes under the chair very well. So W, let's push this here. Awesome. I think this works. But what I'm going to do is to add just a little bit of thickness. So I'm going here on Control E to extrude the thickness. I'm going to increase it a little bit. I think just like that is fine. Now we can click off, select the chair, hit on W, go into the object mode, drag this up a bit. Yeah, just like that. Select this and drag it up a bit. So for this, all right, that's fine. This is nice. Now we can go out of that. All right, this is looking good. So now we can just select this, and what are we going to name it to? You're just going to name it to foot match. No, not foot match. We're going to name it to rug, or maybe so let's just say RUG rug. All right, everything looks perfect. Everything looks well organized. You can now see the messy outline that we have before. It's no longer messy. So now we're just going to select this one and select this one. To select everything, we're going to hit on Control G and double click and name that to isometric room. All right, perfect. So now we can highlight everything or just select this. Now we can go to our layers and just remove all this so that we can easily select everything here. So now we're going to select the group. We'll go into freeze transformation, delete the history, and center the pivot. All right. So this is what we are going to do before we start UV mapping. Most times things might get weird. So all you have to do is just to select everything from here. And when you do that, you can just repeat the same process. Freeze transformation, delete the history, and center the pivot. Of course, the pivot is not going to the center because of where it is here. So when you just select this, it is going to be centered. So this is how you can easily organize your models in Maya or organize your outliner. In the next lesson, we are going to start UV map. I'm not going to talk too much when we get into the UV mapping. I'm just going to be straightforward because I don't want to give you guys a lot of information that at the end of the day you're going to find out it won't be useful to you. So we're just going to focus on just the UV mapping process directly. That is what you want to learn. So I'm going to see you guys in the next lesson. All right. In this lesson, we are going to UV map our scene. Okay. Now everything is well organized, arranged, and everything is looking good. Now, UV mapping is just creating a representation of our 3D model in 2D so that we can just texture that. And yeah, that is all you need to know about UV mapping. But there is a lot you need to understand about UV mapping, but I'm just going to get you guys started with UV mapping. So the first thing you want to do before you UV map is for you to select all your models, just like what we did in the previous lesson. Select everything, freeze the transformation, delete the history, and center the pivot. So just that. Now, in case you forgot all this and you can go back to the previous lessons, let me quickly remind you of where you can get all these buttons. So if you want to delete the history, you go over to edit, delete by type, history, or you go over to edit, delete all by type, history. And the delete by type, it's going to delete the history on the current model you are selecting, and delete all by type, it's going to delete the history on all the models available in your scene. And to freeze the transformation, you want to go over to modify, freeze transformation, and to center the pivot, you want to go over to modify and center the pivot. Another way to center the pivot is by hitting on D to go into the edit pivot mode. And another way to get the pivot mode, you want to come down to your modeling toolkit and just hit on, where is that, edit pivot. So you can see that, and when you click on it, it's going to edit the pivot, and you just right click and hit on reset pivot, and it is going to center the pivot for you immediately. And just hit on D, or you hit here to just go out of the pivot mode. Okay, now we're going to take this one step at a time. This is where the isolation, it's going to be very useful for us. Okay, now let's quickly take a look at it. You can see that we have repeated models in our scene. Like, this is the same thing as this one, and this one is the same thing. So as this one, and this one is the same thing. This speaker are the same thing, the books the same thing, all these drinks are the same thing. So the question is, are you going to repeat all this UV mapping on each and every one of these items? Well, we're going to look at that when we get to it. Okay, so now we're going to select the wall, which is the first thing we want to work on. So before we start UV mapping, the first thing you want to do is to switch over to the UV editing workspace. So you have two ways of doing that. You can just go up here and bring out the UV editor, or you go to your workspace. From here, click on this drop down menu and select UV editing, and you're going to see your workspace. It's going to change. You're going to have different things. Now, you don't need to worry about everything, and you don't need to be everywhere for you to start working, for you to start doing UVs, or for you to start editing your UVs, or whatever it is you want to do. So the first thing you are going to be working with the most is the UV editor, where you are going to see everything you are working on. Not just that, this the UV type, and here we have some things here. So we have different kinds of UVs which you can use to create, but the one we're going to focus on is just the camera base, which is this one. Here is automatic, normal, cylindrical, planar, spherical, best plane, whatever it is you want to use. Go ahead, check on that, but we're just going to focus on the camera based UV because you find yourself using that a lot. And coming over to this part, the UV toolkit, which is second thing you need to focus on a lot. All these buttons here, they are very useful, but we are not going to touch that because most of the things we are going to just cover. Most of the things you need to UV map any model, we are going to cover everything here. So that is just what you need to know. And the only tab we're going to be using here is the modify, and this is going to be probably the last thing we are going to be doing concerning the UVs. That is when we have finished when we UV all our model, that is when we're going to be making use of this modify tab. And yeah, that is all. That is everything you need to know. But let's take a look at this by selection. We have the vertex, we have the edge, and we have the faces. So the same way you model when you select, the same way you select your components when you model, that is how this works also. So we also have the symmetry if you want to work with the symmetry. So all this does not really matter. What matters most is just first focus more on the UV, and you can go in depth and start learning everything. What matters most, learn what you need at that particular time, and you can learn everything later on. So in the next lesson, we're going to start the UV editing process. All right, here let's start the UV editing. So first, we're going to head over to file. We're going to do increment and save. All right, so we have isometric house dot 0002.mb. Now we're going to start with the wall. So I think my editor is too big, so I'm going to make it small. Now we'll go into the object mode. We're going to select the wall, and when we select the wall, we're just going to hit on Control 1 to isolate this so that we can really focus on this. Now there might be a little bit of an error because we're going to be UV mapping in the smooth preview or in the sub-D mode, and when you UV map in the sub-D mode, there are likely to be issue, just one issue, and I'm going to show you that right here, which is this. Take a look at the UVs. You can see how they are looking. It's not really looking good. Now if I select this model here, don't want to go into the sub-D mode, into the normal mode, you can see how the UVs are looking. Let's forget about that. This is where the UV, we can't work with this, but you can just see how they are looking. And if I go back into the smooth preview, you can really see all this. Well, we talk about that later. All right, so the first thing we need to do is, after we have our model selected, we need to go over to edit and hit on delete to delete this weird UV we have here. Now we're going to select the wall, and we'll go over to create, and we're just going to hit on camera base. Now the camera base, it's going to create a projection of your model based on the current camera view. So if I delete this UV and I say my model is like this, and I go to create here and I hit on camera base, something went wrong. So if I go to create again, let me select the model. Let's go into the object and have the model selected, and I go to create and I hit on camera base. You can see how it is projecting my UV. So the camera base is just going to work on how, or the current position, just going to work with the current position you place your model. And it doesn't really matter, you can place your model anyhow, but just try to be organized. So we'll go here, delete, create, and then camera base. Let's select the model, object mode, select model, create camera base, and now we have this. Now the next thing for us to do is to select the edges or the places where we want to cut. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit tricky. That's why most times it is good to start with UV mapping the models you create yourself, because trying to UV map a model or trying to learn UV mapping with a model someone create, it's going to be a little bit difficult and frustrating to you. Now you know how you create your model, the places where you have edges and the places that are rounded. So it really depends on you, not on the person who model or who create that particular model. So when you are UV mapping, the first when you are remapping the model you created, it's going to be easy for you to just follow along. So we're just going to select the edges where we want to add our seams or where we want to cut. So first thing we need to do is to right click and go into the edge mode. You can see we have the face mode here. You can come down here, edge mode, and now you can just double click to select the loop round. Now I'm going to select all this loop round completely. So I'm going to hold and shift, double click to select that, double click to select this. Now just the edges are what I'm going to select. So everything here is selected. Everything here as well is selected. So I'm going to select everything here, double click, make sure I have everything selected, double click, have everything selected, and just double click here. Let me look at this part. All right, I have everything selected there. Just double click this, double click, and double click. All right, I have every look selected. All right, this is selected, here is selected, this is selected. All right, so now once you have all this selected, you can just go around once more to verify you have everything selected. So now once you're done with that, you want to go over to the toolkit here and you want to come down to the part that says cut and sew. Now click on that drop down menu. Now you can just hold down alt and drag this up. Now you want to come down to this part that says cut and hit on cut. And when you do that, the question is, how can you tell that you have cut all these edges you selected? So at the moment you take a look at this, or the moment you hit the cut button, you're going to notice that the orange highlights you have, it's now thick than what you have before. So let me undo this. Now you can see they are very light. We have not cut at this stage. So the moment we hit on cut, you can now see that it is very thick, letting us know that we have a white underlaying under this orange, underlaying on the orange, or underlaying under the orange. Now we can just click off, and now you can see all those edges we selected are white, and you can also see that from your viewport here. Now the next thing you need to do is to unfold this, because you don't want to make use of this way. If you want to make use of it this way, you are not going to cut. So now you right click, go into UVs, and highlight everything from here. When you highlight everything, you want to come down to this unfold tab here, click on that, and now you're going to hit on unfold. And when you do that, you're going to get something weird. Don't worry, don't be in a rush. The next thing you need to do is to make sure you orient this shell before you go ahead and lay out. Orienting the shell is just like, placing them in the right way they are supposed to be. You can do all this manually, but we're not going to touch that. So now you want to come down to this part that says arrange and layout, click on that, and you want to scroll down and hit on orient shell, and now you can see the shells has been oriented. And finally you want to come down to this part here that says layout and hit on layout, and it is going to lay out the UVs for you. Now we have a lot of weird things going on here, which is really not looking okay. So now we can select this model, hit on one, and I think we have a lot of issues here. Okay, so now to fix this error we have here, this is what we are going to do. So the first thing to do is to come down to this part here. We're going to go into the edge mode. And we're going to select that loop round, and we're going to hold and shift and select this loop round as well. Now we can come down here, hit on cut, right click again, go into UVs, highlight everything once more, going to hit on unfold, and going to hit on orient shell, and then we're going to hit on layout. Now take a look at this. You can see that weird shape we have there, it's no longer there. We'll fix that. So these are all the things you just need to keep in mind. So we have it's trying to compress everything to fit in, but normally I don't know why it did that. It is supposed to just fit in perfectly, but I don't know why. Okay, now let's move closely to these UVs and let's see if something is wrong. Okay, currently we are in the normal mode. So let's hit on 3 to go into the subdiv mode. All right, now let's work on this. If you see something like all this error, I don't know why all this is happening, but I'm going to show you how to fix that and see all this here. But when you go into the normal mode, it is not like that. Everything is accurate. So what is really happening? Well, this is what is happening here. So we need to tell Maya to preserve the edges and corners of our model. So when we hit on 3, you notice that we have rounded edges on all these parts here. Now, the rounded edges, it's also happening on our UVs. That is why we are having all this here. Well, I really can't tell if that is exactly what is happening, but to my own knowledge, that is exactly what is happening. So now we need to go into the attribute editor from here, and let's just right click, go into the object mode, and now we will look for the one that says wall shape 1, which is this one. And if you did not rename it, you're going to get something like poly surface or poly cube 1 or poly wherever it is. So since we renamed this, we're going to look for this one that says wall shape 1, and we're going to come down to this part here that says smooth mesh. From this part, we want to look for the one that says subdivision levels, and it might be closed, so you just want to open subdivision levels or whatever it is. No, we don't need to open that normally, so just come down to open subdiv controls. From here, where we have the subdiv controls, so the first thing you want to open is just a smooth mesh, and you're going to get every other option here. So for so long I've been mistaken that when all this is closed, when you open the smooth mesh, you have to open the subdivision levels for you to get this for you to get this open subdiv controls. So going to, yeah, that is the error I usually do. So but don't worry, when you just open the smooth mesh, come down straight to the open subdiv controls, you're going to get this option that says UV boundary smoothing. Currently, it is set to Maya Cat Clark. You just want to click on that drop down menu and set it to preserve edges and corner. All right. Now let's go in. Okay, we are currently, we are in the smooth mode. So now take a look at the UVs. We can't select the UV, so let's go to share. All right, so take a look at the UVs. You can see how smooth they are looking, how straight they are looking. So let's go back here. Let's set this to Maya Cat Clark. So now you can see the edges. Now let's click on this again and set this to preserve edges and corner. So now you can see the difference. It's just like the way it is in the normal mode without the smooth preview. That is the difference between all this. You need to understand that depends on you. If you just want to UV your model without going into the subdiv mode, that is, if you're going to use it that way, it depends on you. So whatever way you want to UV your model, you can do that anyhow you choose to. Okay, now you can just leave this way and proceed with every other thing. But what I want to do is to make, okay, this part of my window is just one frame, but now I don't want it to project this way. I want to cut it. So what I'm going to do is I want it to be straight. So I will go into my UV toolkit, right click, select edge, and I'm just going to select this edge, make sure that everything is selected, and I'm going to hit on, I'll go to the cut, and so I hit on cut, and I'll go to UVs, just highlight only that particular UV, and I'll hit on fold, which is this, and now I'm just going to leave it that way for now. But first, let me just highlight everything. When I highlight everything, let me just go to arrange and layout and hit on just layout. Let's see, orient shell and then layout. Let me quickly see. Let's go to face mode, and okay, yeah, this is it. So if we select that loop round, we can see. All right, so this is it. Okay, now what we need to do is to make this. Let's right click, go into UV shell. let's look for all this. Okay, so we have this top here, which is this one, and then this one. So what we are going to do is to stitch them together so that they're just going to be one. Okay, so now we right click and go into the edge mode. We can select, let's be sure, yeah. So now we can just select these edges here. Now when you select these edges, if you look at this part here, you can now see that we have it selected, because this part here is where they are both joining together. So they are opposite from each other, just in our UV editor. But let me quickly go into UV shell and let's go into the UV shell and let's see. Okay, I thought both of these shell are joined together, but they are separate. So we can go into the edge mode. We still have the edges selected here. So now what we are going to do is to stitch this together. Now the reason why I am doing this, it's just in case you are texturing, you just want a seamless transition between the textures to go around here. You don't want them to be different, you just want it to be one. Aside from that, you can leave your UV like this and just proceed to texturing. It depends on you. So if you want to stitch, go ahead and stitch, but if you don't want to stitch, just go ahead and leave it. So I'm just going to show you the stitching method because it is necessary for you to understand it, because there are some times when all you have to do is just to stitch. That is one thing you need to keep in mind. Okay, so now that I have that edge selected, I will go over to my cut and sew tab, and under here I'm going to hit on stitch together. And when I stitch that together, you can now see what we have here. So if I go into UV shell, I select this shell, I can just drag this shell up, or let's just take this outside so that you can see. Don't worry about taking it outside. So now you can see. And sometimes you might have issues with this shell, like when you stitch them together, it's not going to be connecting properly. Sometimes it might feel like this part is bending or this part is bending, or it's not just connecting properly. Now when you encounter issue like that, all you have to do is just to come down to the unfold part here, just click on unfold, and that is going to unfold the shell again for you. Or you can just right click, go back to UVs again, just highlight everything there, then hit on unfold. It is going to unfold the shell for you. Whichever way you want to do it, just make sure you hit on unfold. After hitting on unfold, then you just orient the shell and lay it out. But the moment you hit on unfold, it is going to fix whatever error you have on your UV after you stitch together. So I'm just going to find all this part here and then stitch them together. So I can just select, I can just go into the edge mode, look for these edges and just select. I don't want to select the loop round, so not that. So I'm going to select this edge, select this, and select this in my UV2 kit here. So I have both of them selected. I can just go to stitch together, and that is it. So here we have to stitch this part and this part together. So now we can just select this, and this, and then we can just stitch together. Now we stitch everything is really looking good. All right, so now what we are going to do is to right click, go into UVs again, highlight everything. We're just going to hit on orient shell. Doesn't really matter, you don't have to do that, but one thing you want to do after doing all this is just hit on layout, so that it is going to lay everything out in the 0 to 1 UV tie. Okay, so now you can see that we have everything here. Everything is looking weird. Don't worry, we're going to fix all those things. All right, so now you can go into the face mode and just select everything here just to make sure that all your UVs are complete. Or you can go into UV shell and just try to verify that all your UVs are here. This should be for the window frame. All right, that is it. So everything is looking good and perfect. That is it. All right, so now we're done UV mapping the wall. Now, I want to let you guys know that we're not going to split this UV mapping process across several videos. We're just going to try and UV map most of all the models together in some videos. The ones that are necessary to UV map in one video, we're going to do that, and the ones we need to pay special attention to, we're going to do that separately. All right, that brings us to the end of this lesson, and I hope at the ending of this lesson you have a UV map like this that is ready and really good for you to start texturing. In the next lesson, we are going to UV map other parts of our model. So I'm going to see you guys in the next lesson. Okay, so this is where we stopped previously, UV mapping the wall. Now we're going to hit on Control 1 to bring back all the other models. Now, if by any chance it did not come back, make sure that you have your viewport selected and hit on Control 1. It's going to bring back other models. So now we can right click and go into object mode. So the first thing first, we are going to UV map most of all the difficult models. We've UV mapped the wall. We're going to work on the chair. TV, it's not that difficult. It's just straightforward. And I think this might be a little bit difficult. So I think we're going to UV map this next. So we're going to select the table, hit on Control 1 to isolate. Now we need to frame this table. We're going to hit on F to frame this. Now we'll go into our UV editor, we're going to edit and delete. Now we're going to head over to create and camera base. I want to explain something. This might happen a lot. Now, when you go over to create and hit on camera base, you're going to get this error here. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind while working in Maya is for you to make sure that you read everything that is necessary, because you might be having a little issue that is not something big. You might spend time trying to solve that particular issue that you have just because you refuse to read a simple text. So coming down to this part here, you can see that we have warning. This tool requires one or more faces to be selected. See this article for more. There is no article there, but now we're just reading only this issue. You realize that you need to have one model or one face selected for you to be able to create a projection of your model. So we need to go into our viewport and select our model. Then we can come over to this part here, create, and hit on camera base. And now it is still the same thing. So we need to right click and go into the object mode and make sure that we are in the object mode. And finally, we can come down here, create camera base, and we are going to have the projection of our UV. So all these things you need to keep in mind while you are working in Maya, because you might encounter all these issues later on, and they are just something minor which you really need to solve. Okay, this model is a little bit tricky, just like a cylinder. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky for us to UV map and kind of stressful, but we're going to approach this little by little. So the first thing we need to do is to go into the edge mode, double click on one loop to add an edge loop. So we double click on one and this select a lot of loops. So let's just select this loop, and this is actually going around because, oh, I guess, are these loops connected? No, they are not connected. So what we are going to do, let's select this middle one, and it's still selecting that one. Let's select this. Oh my god. So we have to do this manually. I really don't know why it's selecting multiple, but this is normally supposed to select only one. But hold on, let's do this. So let's select one. Let's select one, hold on, shift and double click, and that is going to actually select everything. Okay, no problem. So we're going to do this manually. We're going to make use of this center one. No, we're not going to make use of the center one. I just want to add a chord one side. And of course, here it's going, this bottom part is going to be rounded the way it is here. So I'm going to start from here, select this, and I'm just going to select all this. Select. And of course, I was doing something wrong at first because we're not supposed to select all the whole loop at first. So we're just going to select one side because we want to cut only one side. So I'm going to select this. And of course, I'm going to select here and stop. So all this is going to be one particular face. Now we need to add some seams here. We're going to add seam here. We're going to select that loop round completely. And we're going to add another seam here. We're going to double click and select that. Now, how do you know? How can you select your seam? Now, there is no one way on how you can select the edge of which you want to cut or the places where you want to add your seam. But the most easy way to understand it, it's by just knowing the places where you have a connection on your model. Let me quickly explain that. Now, when you look at this part here, you can see that the rounded bottom of our table started from this edge here and goes down completely. So if you want to add a seam, you are going to add your seam here or here, depending. And up here, the rounded part of our table starts from here, which is just like the connection between the two shape. Now, if we go into the normal mode, you can see it here. This is where it starts from. And if we scroll down, this is also where it is starting from. So this is a little bit tricky for you to understand at first. That's why it is always good to make use of your own model to learn how to use your map, because it's going to help you understand the places where you are going to add your seam. So I'll go out of the normal mode for now. I'll go out of the smooth preview so that we can use this to just make a proper selection around this, because it's a little bit tricky than what we remap. So now for this part, the curved part of our table starts from here. So the moment we go out of these edges here, other things we see, it's part of being round on our table. So if we want to add a seam to this part of our table, we're just going to double click on this part here to add a seam. And here is straightforward. You can really understand that. So now this is really going inside very well. So I think I will go into the wireframe mode, and this is tricky for me to understand. And I think this should be it here. I'm trying to make sure okay, so this is around, this is it, but I can't get to select that inner part. It is really annoying. So okay, let's go out of the wireframe and then let's see. Okay, I think we can select that part. Oh, okay, so now I'm going to go down shift, double click to select that loop round, because that is where we have a cut. And here we're going to add a cut here, and later on we're going to stitch it back. But I'm going to do something. I will just leave this the way it is so that we can come back and see that and see what kind of issue we are going to have there. Now we'll come down to this part here, hold on shift and double click to add a seam there, and here we're going to double click to select that part. All right, so the only place we did not add a seam is just this part here and probably here. But anyway, let's go into our UV toolkit and we're going to hit on cut. We're going to right click, go to UVs, highlight everything. We're going to hit on unfold, and we're going to hit on orient shell and then layout. All right, now I said we're going to have issues, and of course we did have issues. Now let's take a look at this. Let's go into the UV shell. Let's select this. Okay, this part is rounded. This is a rounded part, and we don't need this part to be rounded. We just want it to be that way. And if you want it to be rounded, you can just stitch them together. But let's shift this down. We'll come back to this later. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, this is this middle part here, and you can see it's not straight. So we need to straight this. So for us to straight this, you just need to make sure you're in the UV shell, select the shell, go over to your unfold tab and hit on straighten shells, or you can hit on straighten UVs. Now just hit on straighten UVs, leave the straighten shell, but make sure before you hit the straighten UVs, your U and V is checked. So just click on that, and that is going to straighten your UVs. And now you are done with this one. You don't have any issues. So let's take a look at all these UVs now. So let's see this one. This one is this bottom part here. So I think we're going to make it round. We're going to make it round. So right click, go into the edge mode, and we're going to select all these edges here. And I explained something to you in the previous lesson, telling you that when you stitch together, sometimes it is going to give you a weird UV shell. So now we're going to stitch together, and this is what I'm telling you about. You see this weird look of the UV shell, and of course you might just hit on undo and you say you are done. This is crazy. You're not going to continue with this. Now that is the error we usually have. So we're going to right click, go into UV shell, select the shell, and we're just going to hit on unfold, and now it is going to give us this shell properly. It's going to unfold the shell properly the way it is supposed to be. So I'm going to leave it this way. And now we're going to see this one here. And do we have to make this one? Of course, the texture that will go on this bottom part of our table should be in a rounded form. That is another thing you need to know. You need to understand how to place your UV shell. Now, if you make this straight, just know that the texture you are going to apply on this particular part of your table is just going to be straight. If that is what you want, go ahead and straighten these UVs. You can just add a seam in the middle, or just try to chop off everything and straighten them, then stitch everything together. But that is not what I'm going for. So I'm going to into the edge mode and just select, I don't want to select everything. I'm just going to select this edge, this. All right. So I think, is anyone here? Yeah, this one. And I'm going to stitch together. Of course, we're going to have the error. So we're going to the UV shell, have the shell selected, and unfold. All right. Now we're done with this. We can just shift this here. And let's take a look at this. So where is this? Of course, this part is going to be round. So let's take a look at it. This is the bottom part. So we're going to leave this one this way. And now we're going to select this edge, and this. Then we just stitch together. This might look a little bit good. Yeah, this looks better than all the ones we've stitched. So we can just right click, go into UV shell, select the shell, just hit on unfold, and of course unfold will definitely do something. So now this should be the top part of the, and of course we're just going to work with this. So we add a cut here at first. So let's see, all these are the same thing. So we're just going to stitch this part together. So we're just going to right click, edge, select these two edge, and then stitch together. We can just go into UV shell, select the shell, unfold. All right, now we have to deal with only this one here. So the question is, how do you want to do this? If you want this to be straight, you can just hit on straighten UVs, and you're going to get some error. You're going to cut this part, cut here, and then stitch them together and straighten it. But for this, we just want everything to be rounded here. So let me see. Yeah, we just want everything to be rounded. We don't want to have anything different here, but I think this should be straight. So let's make this straight. So we're going to the edge mode, select this edge, and select, sorry, I did not. But let's try this. So we can also go into UV shell, select this, and hit on unfold. It's going to give us that same thing. And we can do this. We can say unfold along U and select this part and say unfold along V. And now let's try the straighten UVs, and we're still getting the same error. So we're going to select edges, just select this edge there, and hold on shift and select this edge. Now we'll go into cut, right click UV, just highlight everything and hit on fold. And now we can go into UV shell, select this shell, hit on straighten UVs, and now this is straighten, and we can select this and let's hit on fold, and then let's hit on straighten UVs, and this isn't going to be straighten. Okay, now in most cases where you're having issues like this, you can just leave your UV this way. But for this, I'm not going to leave it this way. What I'm going to do is to make it round. So I'm going to undo everything that I did. So I'm just going to select this shell and hit on fold to straighten it this way. And when I straighten it, I'm going to right click, go into the edge mode, just select these edges here. And then I'm going to stitch them together. And after stitching them together, of course, we're going to get this weird shape. Then we'll go into UV shell, select the shell and hit on fold. And we're going to get something like this. Awesome. Now we can highlight all the whole shell and hit on orient and then layout shell. All right, this is looking good. Now, if we go back into the object mode, hit on Control 1 in the viewport, I hit on Control and asterisk or whatever it is, not asterisk. So we hit on Control 1. But before we do that, let's hit on 3 to go into the subdue mode. And I think we have something nice here in terms of the UV. So let's just select this. Okay, we don't have something nice here. It's not really good. So we need to go into the attribute editor and round table shape 1 and just change this to preserve edges and corner, and everything looks good. So now we can hit on Control 1 to bring back the other models. We're going to hold on shift and select this one. Take a look at this. We're going to attend to this later. But when you look at this, you can see that all our UV shells are overlapping, and this is a big disaster when it is time for us to start texturing. But we're going to fix this when we are done with all the UV. So right now, go ahead and UV your own table. Depending on how you model your table, that is how you're going to UV it. Now, the rest is are not going to take us that long to UV map, because the moment we UV map one, we can transfer that UVs onto the other model that is similar to that particular one we UV mapped. So that is how we are going to do the rest, and we're not going to spend a lot of time UV mapping every other object or every other model in our scene. So I'm going to see you guys in the next lesson. So we're going to pick the chair that we are going to UV map. So I'll go into the object mode, click off and select the chair. Hit on Control 1 to isolate, hit on F to frame the chair. Okay, so now we'll go into the edit mode, delete, select the chair, create, camera based. Now we're going to right click, you go into the edge mode, and let me see, I'm going to add a seam here. This is going to be a little bit technical, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to, let's just select everything here. I'm going to add the same here. So I'm going to cut this here. Do I have to cut from there? Let me undo, go back, and let me see if I can. No, I won't cut from there. So first, let me select this loop round. I'm going to split the bottom. Okay, so here, I'm going to split it. Select this. here I'm going to join this part together. So let me just click, select everything here, and let's select and select, and also select. So now I'm going to cut this top. So I'm going to select here, select here. Do I have that place selected? No. So let me see. All right. Okay. Let's just see what can, let's just see what can come out of. Okay, so I'm going to cut this bottom completely. All right. And the back, I think I'm going to cut the back to completely. All right. And I'm supposed to cut here because normally we're just going to have one color around. So let's just see what we've done. So we'll go here. Another way you can do this, it's when you right click, when you shift right click, you can go to cut, and that is going to cut. You can highlight everything, shift right click, go to unfold, and you hit on unfold, and this is going to unfold everything. So now let's just go back to the UV2 kit and let's go to orient shell and then layout. All right, so let's see this shell itself. So UV shell, this is it. So I think we're going to cut. So we added the seam here. Okay, it is supposed to cut here as well. So let's see this. This is the bottom part. This is the front part accurate, and this should be the back. So we'll go into the edge mode. So we're going to cut here. Let's see. Let's go back into the shell mode. Oh, okay. So we're going to the edge mode. We're going to add a loop here. Yeah, we're going to add a loop there. Now right click, shift right click, cut, and then highlight all, hit on unfold. Then let's right click, go into UV shell. Let's select this shell and let's see. So let's bring this here. Let's select this one. Okay. So normally this is not supposed to be connected. So we're going to cut that part. All right, let's select that and cut. All right, now we can just unfold, orient. All right, so now we can go into shell. So we select the shell, we have this side, and when we select this shell, we have this side. Okay. All right, so this is fine. Now we can just select everything, hit on layout, and let's orient this and then lay it out again. All right, so I think I like the chair this way. Now we go into the attribute editor and then let's go into the object mode. Then we come down here and preserve edges and corner. So we have an error there. So let's go into UV shell. Let's select this. So where is that error we have here? And it's not supposed to be that way.
So let's select this share and let's hit on food. Let's hit on straight in. It doesn't work. Straight in shell still did not work. All right. So now we'll go back into the object mode from the viewport, hit on Control 1 to bring back the other items. When we hold on Shift and click on this and click on this, you can see that everything is overlapping, and we're going to fix that. Now, in the next lesson, we are going to UV map all these all together. We're just going to UV map one of these and transfer this all over to all these ones here. And we're going to UV map this and transfer it all over to this one. And we're just going to round up with everything related to furniture in the next lesson. So I'm going to see you guys in the next lesson. But before then, don't forget to hit the Ctrl X button to save. It is very important. So let's just go to File and hit on Save Scene.
Okay, so now we are going to UV map the furnitures quickly. So now what we're going to do is to just UV map this one. We're just going to UV map one, and we're going to copy this across the other two. And my voice might sound a little bit different, but honestly, I've been working on this course for I guess a week now, and it has been draining me badly. So halfway while recording, I feel so exhausted, and I just have to like only to rest and return back. So my voice might be sounding a little bit different or a little bit weak, but it's just normal. Okay, so now we can just um hold down shift and select these three, hit on Control 1. We're just going to isolate them. We'll just select only one, hit on F to frame it. Now we can come down to our UV editor and delete this one we have here. And I'm going to hit on Control 1 back to bring back everything. So I'll go into my outliner, go into the isometric room, and then let me see into furniture, drawer main. I guess this is it. Okay. Yeah, into drawer main, which is the bottom. Okay, so this is the I select this one. Okay, now we'll go into here on Control 1 to isolate that, and we can close the UV. Yeah, we can close the outliner. All right, so we're just going to select only this one. We already deleted the UVs, so now we have to create another one, camera based, which is this, and we just right click, go into the edge mode. And now I'm going to quickly run through this. So I'm going to add a sim here, here, okay. All right, now I'm going to select, okay, not all the loop. So I'm going to just select all this round and select, I guess, yeah, the loop round. Okay. Right now we can, sorry, let's just not to do anything. Let's zoom in. Select the rule. So mapping is one of the most boring thing in 3D. Like, I still don't understand why it is necessary, but of course it is necessary. So just going to, and I think I'm just adding seams anywhere. So I'm just going to cut. All right. So yeah, this is fine. So we don't have any edge been selected from the center part here. So we're going to select only one. Okay, now every edges are selected. So we can just go to our UV2 kit. I will go under the cut and sew, and we're going to hit on cut, right click UV, highlight everything, and we'll go to the unfold. We're going to unfold everything, and of course this is really crazy, scattered and annoying. Then we'll go to the arrange and layout. Then we'll go to orient shell and finally layout. So let me take a look at this. If this is okay, I'm not going to do, I promise I'm not going to do anything here again. I'm just going to leave it this way. So let's go into the UV shell. Let's select this shell. All right, so this is okay, but now we are going to sew this part, and this part attaches to this part. So now I will go, before we do that, let's go into the object mode and let's select the object. We'll go to the attribute editor. You can see how messy this is looking. So go to the drawer shape, and we'll go to your smooth mesh and preserve edges and corner back in here. Okay, now we can just go into the edge mode, select 1, 2, 3, and let's see where it selects. Did it select any other part? And of course it should. So let's see. Yeah, it's selected here. So now we can just stitch together, and I think we need to stitch this one to stitch together. All right, that is fine. So we need to come down here, select all this, but first let's go into UV shell, select this shell. Where is that? Where is that? Okay, so okay, this is the bottom here. All right, so we select that shell and we just move it out so that we have space here. Okay, now we'll go into right click, go into the edge mode, select this edge, and we'll go into stitch together. And this is not matching with this part, so we're going to select this ones and we're going to stitch them together. And now we can just go into the UV shell, select the shell, hit on unfold, and that should fix everything. So let's take a look at all this. Where is that? Where is that? Okay, we did not select it, so we can just, yeah, I thought as much. All right, so now we just want to make this a one straight loop, and of course that should be, how many sim do we, okay, we have 2 sim here. So we'll go into the edge mode, we just select this edge. Of course it is going to locate itself right there, so we're going to stitch together. And let's go into shell. Let's look for this shell. All right. Okay. We already have one cut here. That is okay. So let's look for this shell. All right. One it's missing, which is this one here. So we're going to the edge mode. Zoom in. Select everything. And now we can just stitch together. And I guess that is all we need to do. So we have, let's go into the shell. So we have this as the whole back. Then we have this as one side, this as the other side. This should represent the top, okay, bottom. And this should represent the top. This should represent the front, the front, the front. Okay. And for all this, right, we have this. Okay, that is fine. So now I can just select everything, layout, and for other ones that we stitch together, we can just hit on fold, orient once more, and then layout. All right, this is looking good. Object mode. So let's just do this first. And let's go back. Delete. Let's select this. And we're going to create. All right, so go into the edge mode. Select the edge. Select this. Now we can cut, select all, and fold, orient, and layout. All right, this is good. Now what we're going to do is to go into the object mode. We're going to select this one. Then we go to modify and scroll down to the part that says transfer attribute. But let's go to edit and transfer attributes. Click on this button here. No, not this one. Edit, transfer attribute. This is transfer attribute value. So let's go. Let's see. That should be in mesh, and yeah. So we'll go to mesh, transfer attribute. So let's click here. So all we just need to do is to come down to this part that says word and hit on component. So let's close that first. So first we're going to select the one that have the UV first, and the one we want to transfer the UV to. Now we'll go to mesh and transfer attributes, and from sample space, let's just set this to component and hit on apply, or you can just hit on transfer, whichever one you want to do, and you close it. Now when we click on this, you can see that we have the UVs, and we'll click on this, you can see that we have the same UVs. So you just have to go to the attribute editor and preserve the edges and corner. So we're going to repeat this for the bottom part. And yeah, finally we UV mapped everything. So now we can just highlight everything here. Let's go into the object mode and let's highlight everything here. You can see the UVs. You can see how they are overlapping. Okay, so now we can hit on Control S because the next step might be a little bit crazy. Okay, so what we are going to do now is to just lay out all these UVs so that we don't have any UVs overlapping. As you can see here, they are overlapping on each other, which is not really making any sense. So to do this, we will need to go into modify and come down to layout and click on this option here, and that is going to open up this layout window for us. Now we can set the parking resolution to, let's just say 2K. So this is 4K, so we're going to set this to 2048 and come down to this partial pre-rotation. We're going to come back to that. No, we're not going to come back to that. I'm going to explain all this as I keep going so that you're going to understand this, because this UV it's a little bit heavy, so we don't have issues while trying different things. So from here we're going to set the pre-rotation. This pre-rotation, I can't really show you that. So shell pre-scaling, so we're going to leave it at preserve 3D rotation, and this we're going to skip this part here and make sure at this top part the method is set to on full 3D, and texture map size we're just going to set this to 2K, and padding units we're going to leave it to pixel. And here this shell padding, it's talking about the spaces between your two UV shell. It's going to be the difference between your UV, the spaces in between your UV shell. So for the shell padding, we're going to set this to 10. And for the type padding, we're going to set this to 10. This type padding, it has to do with the distance between the tie, which is the line here, and your UV shell. So we're going to come back to that. So the scale mode, it is set to uniform. We're going to keep that way. And now we can just highlight everything. Let's go into UV shell. We can just highlight everything. And now, moment of truth, this might crash Maya, it might not. So we're just going to hit on apply. And we have the triangulation of the selected mesh has non-manifold geometry, which needs to be made manifold in order for the layout to run. And I'm just going to hit on fix and allow Maya to do its thing. This is actually going to take some time for it to just lay out all these UVs. So let's just sit relax and wait while Maya do its thing. All right, now this laid out, but you can see this is supposed to be laid inside of the 0 to 1 UV tie, and it did not. And for us to fix this, we need to just select everything again. Then we'll go to the poly modeling tab. We'll go into face transformation, delete the history, and we don't need to center the pivot. And now with all the UV shapes selected, we can just hit on apply again and allow Maya to do its thing. Wow. All right, so before we do this, we need to select everything, and we just go to, let's highlight everything here. Let's go into the object mode. Let's just click off. Let's highlight everything here. Let's go to modify. Let's go to edit, delete all by type, history, and let's go to modify, face transformation, and then modify, going to center the pivot. And now we can come back here. We can go to modify, and because we select everything here, now we go into UV and we highlight everything here. We go to layout. Okay, let's abort this. Now we can just go to modify, and let's see something here. So I think, let me go into the object mode, and I'm going to deselect these two shell here, and now we can highlight everything. We can just select, we can just go into UV, highlight everything now, and then we can go to modify, and come down to this part here that says layout, and we're going to select that, and I'll go to edit and reset this. Now the parking resolution, I'm going to set this to 2048, and coming down to the sharp rotation, we're going to come back to that. And for the texture map size, I'm going to set this to 4K, and we're just going to hit on apply. And let's ignore, let's apply, and let's fit. All right. Now you can see this laid out, but it did not lay it out correctly. Everything is overlapping, still overlapping on each other. So we need to come down and fix this. So sharp rotation, we're going to set this to horizontal. And here, the parking resolution, the sharp padding, we're going to set this to 10. When this is done, I'm going to show you the work, and the type padding, I'm going to set that to 10. And now I'm going to hit on layout UVs. So our UVs just disappear. So let's undo this. Let's go back here and go to, let's delete the history, freeze transformation, and then center pivot again. And now let's go to layout. Okay, so this packs our UV, but it is really, really small. So we can go back to modify, and let's go to layout again, and let's see where we have an issue here. So let's go shell prescaling, preserve 3D ratio. So we're going to turn that off for now. And now we're going to hit on apply. Let's just hit on layout. Of course, it is still not working very well. So we're going to undo. Okay, so after checking, I noticed that we have an issue with this UV and I don't know why. So I'm going to select that, I'm going to edit, and I'm going to delete the whole UVs. So I'm going to select this one and select this one. Then I will go to mesh and transfer attributes. Now I can select this. Okay, now we have everything. Now we can select everything. We can freeze transformation, delete the history, and I'm going to deselect this and this. All right, with this panel still open up, we have all the same settings here. So we're going to hit on apply, and let's see this time what is going to happen. All right, so everything it's arranged properly now. So we'll come back to the scale mode and we set this to uniform, and we're going to hit on apply again. All right, everything has been scaled properly into the 0 to 1 UV type. Now, for this, you can see that for the shell pre-rotation, you can see that everything is organized horizontally. Now, if you want this to be vertically, you can click on this drop-down menu and set it to vertically. Depending on how you want your UVs to be, that is how you are going to do it. Now, coming down to this padding, let's click off here. When we go close to our UVs, you can see that we have spaces between the shells and between each shells. So this is just the space, which is 10. And when we go close to the edge here, you can see that we have space here. So this is the spacing we have here. So once you are done with everything, you just hit on layout and that is it. So I think now when you see on Control S first, we're going to highlight everything, including the cutting, and we're going to hit on apply once more and let Maya lay this out for us. All right, everything has been laid out properly. Now you can close this, you don't need it anymore. You can just hit on layout if you wish to, but I'm just going to hit on layout I'm just going to do that. All right, now everything is laid out properly. So we have all our UVs here and everything we have here. So now we can enable this and we can see all these here. So finally done with the UV, it is time for us to start applying colors or textures or whatever you want to do. Now you can hit on Control S, and the next thing you want to do is to go to File and then increment and save. And we did nothing here, so let's just rotate this a little bit so that we can be able to increment and save. Let's just go and hit increment and save. Now we're going to have isometric house.0003.mb. All right, so we have a perfect UV layout. Everything really looks good. In the next lesson, we are going to start laying out. We are going to start applying textures to our model. I'm going to see you guys in the next lesson.